all three people here. Yeah, I'm using that for YouTube.
Just like me.
I'll probably make this announcement again in a minute, probably in about 4.5 minutes. But if there's anybody that wants to sign up for the public hearing on the transportation program that has not signed up to speak, you need to do so. Is there anybody? It's free today.
It's free.
And the other thing is the public comment period where you get to talk about anything and everything, and it's free too, including transit. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Okay.
Robert, if someone needs a seat, I'm going to be staying a short time.
Okay. I appreciate that. There, yeah, that's what which one you going to speak about?
Yeah.
And there's a seat up front here. Mayor? Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to get up.
What?
They're going to make you get up. Seat there, seat
We're going to take that up under announcements today.
Lonnie Gramlin, did you want to speak during the transportation program hearing?
Because of the broadband request.
What a wonderful day.
That's not under you, right? Okay, then you can sign on the other one.
Sorry.
What I'll do is I'll just write your name on the other one. You dying to speak? Bless you. Free. Sure.
Doesn't sound the same in that way, but
I use that out there.
One, I think two. Oh, hold on, let me check. Five people.
get two right there on the back. Anyway, now you know what I've been trying to do.
Is there a meal on this flight?
They don't want to come in. Just, they don't want to be
All right, we'll call our September 10th, 2019 Macon County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We'd like to welcome all of you in attendance. Looks like we have a full house tonight, and I think I can speak for all of the commissioners up here in saying that we'd like to have our fellow citizens interested in the business of Macon County. So just few rules of order since we got a full house tonight. I'll give a little brief pause at the end of each one of our agenda items. Feel free to leave at any time. I'd like to ask that you can all please silence your cell phones to keep interruptions to a minimum. Looks like we have a big agenda. We're going to be here for quite some time. Restrooms, if you walk out the door, turn right, and they'll be down the hallway on the left. Any questions? Everybody ready? Get this ball rolling. All right. Any announcements? Mr. Manager, looks like you have one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, just to provide the board with a brief update, on September 4th, Lori, Jack, Morgan, and myself met with Mosley Architects, who, as you all are familiar with, is conducting the space needs analysis for the county. They provided us with sort of a status update of what they've been doing and where they stand in terms of completing the project. Just like to report back to the board that I've been very impressed with the level of detail that Mosley has gathered during this process, not only on the physical condition of our buildings, but also on the usage of our buildings. And all that is going to be taken into consideration, of course, in their final report and the recommendations that they produce. But, you know, now with Mosley being in the final phase, they did report that we should be expecting a final product in November, and that will be, they wanted to get it out there before Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that, the holiday season there. So wanted to give us time to review that heading into the budget process. And just to add, you know, as I said, this has been an intensive information gathering process on the part of Mosley. It has required constant back and forth with Mosley Architects and department heads. They have had one-on-one meetings with these department heads, and just again, want to thank the Macon County department heads for participating in this process. And I feel like, Mr. Chairman, that's just another example of how that, you know, these department heads and employees go above and beyond what's required in their day-to-day operation to plan for the future of this county. So I think, you know, really want to commend them again and recognize that. We have many department heads here tonight. So with that being said, that is the update. We can be expecting a finished product, and I think the board will be very pleased with what Mosley has to give us.
Any further?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to remind everyone, the Macon County Fair starts tomorrow. Opening ceremony is at 1 o'clock. I encourage everybody to come out. We're anticipating one of the larger fairs in many, many years. This is still the only agriculture-only fair left in North Carolina. So we encourage you to come out and enjoy the Macon County Fair.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
Friday night, September 13th is Veterans Night, Franklin High School football field. We'd like for you to come and be with us. That on the track about 6:30. We have a ceremony there, all of the empty chair. And there'll be some information coming out over the radio in the newspaper in a few days. So if you're a veteran on active duty, or if you're in reserve or National Guard, come down and be with us, and we would appreciate it. Veterans Night, February 13th, correction, September 13th. Football field.
Thank you, Commissioner Shields. Any further? I have just a couple items. One is I have a letter from Dr. Don Thomas, President of Southwestern Community College. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The gist of it is on behalf of the students, faculty, and staff of Southwestern Community College, I want to thank you for your generous financial and moral support of the college by approving our local budget request for the 2019-20 fiscal year. I'll pass this on in case anybody wants to read it. I'd also like to comment on Derek's update on our capital improvement plan. It's been something that's been long in the course of making, and personally really can't wait until we finally receive that in our hands and have the opportunity to review it and make some decisions based upon some things that I kind of feel like we're really kicking the can for quite some time. So I'm looking for us to have some good information that we can make some logical and informed decisions upon. Mr. Manager, I think we as a board are guides for you. We try to direct you in directions that we want to see the county move in, and it's up to you to run and manage the county and do that to the best of your ability. And we obviously put great trust and faith in you as the top of the apex of the pyramid of Macon County to do that. I want you to, as I feel like we're constantly on this board discussing our capital assets, our buildings, our improvements, our recreation, our baseball fields, our soccer fields, various other things. I don't ever want you personally, and this is maybe my own soapbox for the moment, to forget the most important asset that Macon County has. We're in the service industry, and our most important assets are employees. I am liaison on several committees, and I know that several of you other gentlemen are as well. And I think it'd be prudent upon you to continually assess the needs of our county employees and making sure that we as leaders are doing our best to take care of them. I look forward to speaking further with you about that, but again, I'm excited about the capital improvement plan, but at the same time, I don't want us to improve, to forget about our greatest capital asset, which is I should say capital asset, our biggest asset, which is our county team members. So I look forward to continuing to work with you on that, and look forward to receiving this information from your board. Anything else? If all rise, we'll observe a short moment of silence. And Yapman, our county manager, I'll ask him to lead us in pledge of allegiance.
Join me in reciting the pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to open up our public hearing, section 5311, 5310, 5339, 5307, and applicable state funding or combination thereof for public transportation. Step forward.
Good evening. So this is the annual opportunity for the public to have input on our grant applications. As Chairman Tate goes through and discusses each of the, or mentions each of the applications, I will give you just a little bit of a rundown if you would like for me to, just so that everybody remembers what they are in reference to, I'm sure nobody remembers what all those nice little numbers are. Section, if you want to start with section 5311.
Go ahead.
Chairman Tate. Section 5311 is for our administrative funding. We are anticipating an allocation amount of $199,522. There's a 15% match required on that. So the match, the local share will be $29,928. Compared to the current fiscal year, it was $195,439, so about $4,000 difference, $750 difference as far as local share goes. As I said, the majority of those funds go to fund salaries and benefits for the administrative staff, which is myself, the assistant director, and the administrative support assistant. We are required to put 2% toward advertising for the public transit system. And beyond that, we use the rest of the money to cover expenses such as electricity, phone, general administrative expenses. We can also cover vehicle expense, but there's only about $20,000 left there to move around, so we cover as much as we can in the administrative budget with what's left there. And that's the 5311 fund.
Mr. Attorney, do we need to approve each one of those individually?
I think the proposed resolution approves all of those at one time. If there's any donation that's turned down, then you can certainly consider them one at a time.
I think you just have to ask for comment on each one.
Okay.
Yes.
Any comments?
Ken, was these, matches, was they equal?
Well, this is for fiscal year 21. So we're already looking at next July. Yes, this will be what will be included in my FY 21 budget. When I used the numbers, it was the current budget as of, that we just recently started. So we get a really early start on next year.
Further questions?
How are you able to get an increase?
It's nothing we did. They give us a 5-year allocation amount. They base it on, there's like there's like $30,000 they give every rural transit, community transit system. Then there's a formula that they use, and it's formula based from that. So that's how it kind of fluctuates. A couple of years ago, it was like 189, 190, so it holds right around the same. Has historically. This is about what we've been getting for 10 or 15 years.
All right, 5310.
All right, section 5310 is operating money. It's a little different. We are asking again next year for $165,000. There's a 50% match on that. We can use state funds. You'll notice at the bottom, I did send that local share certification. It should be included in your packet. About $63,000 is what we've been getting in state funds for elderly and disabled transportation, which is basically the same thing as what the 5310. That's the only, those are the two criteria in order to be eligible for funding under the 5310. So the remaining would be the $19,500, and how I put it in this local share certification is we will ask for it as part of the county general funds. Anything over and above in contract revenue that we get obviously lowers the amount of general funds that we actually end up using. But I like to make sure that you are aware that should we not get enough in our contracts or our advertising that we've got going on vehicles, then obviously this would fall to the county. The interesting part is we were getting that for a number of years. Beginning this year in fiscal year 20, we were only allocated a total of $72,600. We lost about 52% of that funding. It's been hit. Again, preemptive strike was to start selling advertisements on the side of the vehicles to try to have money to recoup part of that loss. You know, I reported earlier that in the first couple of months, we sold about $30,000 in ad. We had about $6,000 in expenses. So we are still actively trying to sell those advertisements to generate that outside revenue without going to county coffers for it. But obviously, we can't stop providing the same level of service to our elderly and disabled that we've been providing. It's just that plain and simple.
Good job. You're in front of that. That's one thing let's talk about just in a few minutes. Any
So-
questions on 5310?
So that's what we hope to do with
Any
5310.
questions? 5339, 5339.
We are not applying for the 5339 funds at this point in time, or the 5307.
Okay.
The other is called combined capital. They will use some of that 5311, some of the 5310. They choose which pots of federal money it comes from. What we are asking for next year, we'll be asking to replace one of our LTVs, which is the small bus type vehicle. We are gonna go up to a 25-foot vehicle because we need the seating capacity. When we do the Appalachian Trail, when we do our senior trips, we need that extra seating capacity because the smaller vehicles only have about 9 seats, and you put somebody with a wheelchair in there, and we lose a seat or two. So, you know, it will benefit us to go with just a little bit bigger. It's only 3 feet longer, but we get more seats out of it. The other thing that we are asking for, again, it's a crapshoot in capital, is we're hoping to replace the flooring completely throughout our office. Nothing has been done to our office since we moved in there 20 years ago. So we'd like to replace the carpet and the tile with some laminate or hardwood flooring. So we're hoping that they will help. In addition to if we get the funding for the expansion, which we still haven't heard from for this year yet. local match on that's gonna be $9,840. All of those local matches are listed below. You see that we are using county general funds for everything except that 5310, and that's about the max we've been getting. And again, that's based on the state budget and what the state allocates us next year in those drug funds.
Any further questions for Kim? All right, we have, one person that's, signed in, and presuming you signed in for the right
No.
thing. So,
I think Robbie asked
Bonnie
Oh, yeah.
Bromley,
Hi.
do you want to address this?
No, it's broadband.
that. Yes.
Okay, Rob, I'll switch you over. Is there anyone, in the audience tonight who would like to address the board regarding, Macon County Transportation Program application? Going once, going twice? Okay.
I take that as a good sign. Thank you.
All right, almost
Mr.
closed.
Tate, I apologize, but I put her name on the old list, I just forgot to scratch her name off the old list. So she's on there.
Thanks,
That's
Robbie.
fine.
Got her. Thank you. Any further questions? And we'll close the public hearing. And I guess, again, you said we can do it all in one, Chester?
Yes, the resolution addresses all of the grants.
Can give a motion to approve the resolution, please. So moved. Got a motion by Commissioner Gillespie. Second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I made it this year. I'm not via phone or anything.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Well done, Ken.
Thank you.
She left your drink.
This is the great thing about having people back.
We all help each other.
All right, public comment period. First up, we have Norrell. Norrell said was not going to speak. Was going to pass something.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do appreciate you bringing all these fine people to hear me, but I am not full of humor. I am just going to hand out something because it's a bit private. And as you read it, you will see that I now
You got those.
need to go stand over by the sheriff because you may well be having him haul me off after you read that.
Thank you, Norrell. Bill Dyer, Macon County Library Board.
I want to thank you, express my appreciation for your support for the library and your funding. I've been on the board about a little less than a year, and I made it my purpose when I went on there to try to understand what all goes on in our libraries. And so two things that really caught my attention that I didn't know much about. One was the summer food program that you heard about, I think, last month. And the other one, Derek, if you could just pass those down, is the thing called Maker Tools program. And it's brand new. The final grant stuff got approved the end of June, and it's in full swing now. And it's the feature article on the front of the Fontana Regional Library newsletter for this fall. And so I want to just get you up to date on what that really is. And I went in and met with two of the staff, one in the children's section and one in the adult section. And I was most impressed with what is being offered to the kids and to our citizens. And so you've got the details right there, but I wanted to give you my impression of meeting with them and what I experienced. And as the staff explained and demonstrated this program to me, I began to realize that the potential it has And everything from the robotics to the construction, from preschoolers all the way up to middle schoolers and then high schoolers on into the adult seniors in the adult section. They've got this thing set up in the children's part of the library for them, and then there's two areas in the adult section. And again, some of that's explained there. It's all hands-on activities, and there are things that involve robotics and construction that if some child is inspired to go into construction or machine operations or becoming an engineer or an architect, this is the most amazing thing I've seen, because it is just foundational to all of that stuff, and there's nothing else like it. They're planning to go into the school systems and introduce this in the elementary schools so these kids can come and take advantage of what's in the library. The adult section has got everything in there from learning how to, I've got to put my glasses on. Learning everything from sound and video conversions to sewing machine operation to constructions of electronic circuit boards to digital art design software and podcast equipment. This is the dangest thing I've seen in a long time. And it's for our citizens. And it all came through the grant funding. So I just wanted to give you an update, and I'm going to keep my nose to the wheel and learn more about what's going on in the library. But I thought this was really something special, and I wanted to come and tell you about it. I appreciate it.
All right, Bill Kirkman, broadband, little T broadband.
All right, thank you. I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you all today. We do. My name is Bill Kirkman. I am a full-time resident in Scaly Mountain and have been for the last year. 14 years before that, we bought a house here and moved part-time. My career has been in technology. Most recently, I was an executive with ADP. And having been involved in Scaly Mountain, we found that there's a lot of interest in bringing broadband into our community. And so recently we created a Scaly Mountain broadband community, organization. I'm a member of that along with Robin Kennedy and Chuck Dunham. We have an advisory board, and they all represent different interests within the community, so business or residents or different parts of the residents. And together our focus is on bringing broadband into our community. So today we're here along with lots of members of the community. I think you'll see lots, maybe raise your hand if you're so lots of support and interest in this. And we're here to ask that you vote yes on the grant for Little T for the $178,000 that we'll cover later today. And enable them to be able to bring broadband internet service into our Macon County community. It is really critical to support and grow our local businesses. And when you think about that, it also includes those that work from home. So not just the things that you see when you drive by the stores. There's a lot of people who try to work from home. And as we've talked to the community, the local businesses, and the residents, we keep getting a lot of feedback about the negative impact that they're having by not having this kind of level of service. There's two things that really we focus on that I'd like to emphasize. One is that Frontier Telecommunications has run out of ports. And so what that means is that prevents anybody from getting new internet service. Anybody that doesn't currently have internet service cannot obtain it. So that means if you're a homeowner, a new homeowner, you can't get internet service. If you're a new business, you can't get internet service. We have a Scaly Mountain Community Center that we all wanted to get the community access for and turned it into a hotspot. We're unable to do that. We're unable to get access. So the lack of service is really substantial and impacts our ability for the people in our community to work and live there. It also will dramatically affect the resale value of our homes and our businesses. Secondly, the internet service that we do have, for those that do currently have it, is often slow and unreliable. And we've just been unable to get Frontier to commit to increasing that speed. We've had a lot of businesses share with us the fact that they're having outages or instability, or the speed's not quick enough for their use, and it's really impacting the growth and our ability to attract businesses to our community. In addition to all the economic impacts described, broadband internet, we know, is going to have a great impact on education, on health and emergency services in our community. And for these and many other reasons, we're applying to you all, to the commission, to support the grant for Little T Broadband. Thank you for allowing us to address this appeal directly. And to you, and for taking the time to consider this important matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, are we allowed to still take any testimony on the cell phone tower application?
The hearing's been closed.
We have someone signed up on public comment to discuss it.
I think they can discuss public comment, but it is not evidence. Mr. Chairman, you're gonna have a presentation from Little T. I think it's later on in the agenda.
Okay. Okay. We'll move without public comment then? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I'm just saying that we'll have more comment when Tony and everybody speaks. When Tony and Jeff speaks, I think we'll hear more about Little T.
All right, Jim.
Gaffney.
Welcome, Jim. I was trying to read your doctor's handwriting there. Welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just get some glasses on here. First, Chairman Tate and commissioners, and as well the city manager and staff, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to you during this public session. My name is Jim Gaffey. I'm a member and a resident of King Mountain community that is in the Scaly Mountain area. I serve on the King Mountain Broadband Committee set up by our board of directors, and we are exploring every option. I spent 30 years a part of a very long career in telecommunication, retiring as an executive with Bell South Corporation. King Mountain community is here today to address you and to ask you to vote yes on the Little T application for the commission's grant of $178,000 to help Little T bring reliable, high-speed broadband internet to our Macon County community. King Mountain has a sense of urgency in this regard because we have residents who are actually losing their internet access. Several of our new owners are being informed that the current local provider, Frontier Telecommunications, has run out of ports and cannot provide new internet services, and they do not have any future plans to do so. By the way, I've been in touch with the president of Frontier Telecommunications about these matters, and they have assigned a technical staff who are looking into these deficiencies. His name is Daniel McCarthy. This is having a negative impact, not only on the quality of life for our neighbors, but will also dramatically affect the resale value of our homes. This would be true for any Macon County homeowners in the entire county. Additionally, the current level of service provided to current Frontier customers has begun to deteriorate to extremely low levels of access and internet speed. We are even having problems with our Frontier landline phone services. For example, recently our manager, who services a very large community and brings updates on all kinds of matters, including emergencies, their phone service is out, and they were told that they'll be having phone service up again in 2 weeks. This is just totally unacceptable. Additionally, excuse me, just let me find, we are further concerned how this will affect connectivity in health services, including emergency response times. For these and many other reasons, we are applying to the Commission to support the grant for Little T. Thank you for allowing us to address this appeal directly to you in this open forum, and for taking the time to consider these pressing matters affecting Macon County. I'm submitting this on behalf and for the benefit of King Mountain Board of Directors and the residents of King Mountain, Scaly Mountain, and the entirety of Macon County. And thank you very much for
Can
taking
I
the
ask you
time.
a question?
Yes, sir.
Since you did serve as executive, in there, you can't help but notice that Frontier stock went down to 42 cents a share. They're back up now to like 60 cents a share.
That's correct.
And that's a real concern for this board on behalf of all the citizens of this community.
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking you to look into no crystal ball, but that can't be a good thing.
No, it can't. I'll take that apart and parse it a little bit. First of all, you can be delisted if you go below $1. So presently they're on the clock as a company to be delisted. That's if you have stock in Frontier, if anybody wants to do that. As well, they are dealing with a serious amount of debt. They recently sold off their Northwest Holdings, very large segment of their new business, in order to help pay down their debt. Currently, if you call a Frontier service attendant, you're more likely to get a subcontractor. Recently, we found a large twisted pair. It's a telecommunication term, very important in how it brings telecommunication into our homes. 40-foot length and separated from the supporting strand which holds it in place. This was down in shrubs in a home that isn't used very often. It took us 2 weeks to get that corrected. Any kind of storm and/or weather-related situation would have snapped that cable easily. I looked at it myself, took pictures, and provided it to Frontier, and that would have cut out service for the whole King Mountain community. As far as their ability to meet their present requirements, I would say that it's borderline at best, Mr. Commissioner. If you want to take me into any other areas, that's a general outline of their present situation, but I can go into any level of details that you'd like to ask me.
I appreciate the insight because it is a concern for all Maconians.
Yes, sir.
Not only on the broadband side, but just on general phone service. So it's a real concern.
So that's why I mentioned a word which is not often used, or maybe it's overused, that we in our community have a sense of urgency. To a degree, ours is a retirement community. In fact, the Scaly area offers many things for retired people. You get into a health situation. How can we get services if we can't communicate with those emergency services? We don't dismiss the fact either, although I did mention it in this particular statement, because we wanted it focused on how matters, is the educational values of the internet has been well proven in many areas. I could go into that in detail I was the second person assigned to the creation of bellsouth.net, so I know what it is. I've been in communications since 1962, when I was a cable puller and a pole installer. So I understand this technology, and I understand how desperate this community should view this application. And I recognize that the community, especially the board here, are addressing this. But I can seriously tell you the diminished capability of Frontier Telecommunications, and I can say that publicly, you must act on these matters. So, thank you very much. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Commissioner?
Thank you.
Chairman Tate, thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Bonnie?
May I speak?
Well, we prefer for you to come up. That's okay. It goes through our recording system, through the microphone. You're live on the air right now, so.
On the internet.
Oh, those
YouTube.
4 years. I have to rotate so my back's to everybody.
We got you right.
Hi, well, thank you.
Sure, thank you for coming.
Commissioners and staff, thank you so much. First of all, I really do want, I won't take much time, but I do want to say how much our little Scaly Mountain community appreciates the support of this board before in maintaining our kind of play space, only park kind of sort of space in the old schoolhouse. It really does mean a lot, that little contribution every year, so thank you for that. I'm here because I really do care about our community. And I volunteer, I have been for about 5 years now, to help our community association with getting out electronically a newsletter for our community and do surveying and things. And I did want you to know that even 5 years ago when we started that, I counted over 80 businesses in Scaly, and I had no idea, because you don't. I used to say, welcome to Scaly Community is the sign, but where is it? And it's just all tucked away in there. And I'm sure the numbers are bigger, especially with our younger families moving in. And if they have any kind of service like we do with Frontier, as far as internet, I mean, phone is one thing, it can go out, and you've already heard all this. But we have a chance, I guess, I don't know all the details, but my husband, Mark Granlett, who's been with the fire department for almost 20 years now, he knows a lot about the communication stuff. And we have a real possibility of lives being endangered. And if we had reliable internet, faster is one thing, that'd be great, but reliable would be just a really huge help to us. And I have heard, without even soliciting information from many of our residents, that if they are fortunate enough to own 2 homes, they're tending not to come to the one in Scaly because they need internet access, whether it's for health or for their livelihood. So it's just a really big deal for us there. And we're so isolated, and the topography is so weird. I feel like it's a real hardship to have the level of service we do. So I hope that you'll give us serious consideration and learn all that you need to learn about it. So thank you very much. And I used to work in Franklin, and I miss being in the schools and being part of the community here. Thank you.
Mr. Sides, I'll give you an opportunity. I'll give you an opportunity. Is there anyone else, and we'll handle this issue first since we have several people here for it. Is there anyone else here that would like to address the board under public comment period? No, it's okay. Let's move on to, I'll come back to you. Reports and presentations. Item 9A, Cameron Highlands Fiber Project Update. Mayor Pat Taylor, welcome. Mr. Mayor.
I have a brief presentation. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Thank you for having me, and appreciate this opportunity to give you an update on where we are on our fiber optic networking construction, and before you hear, we are in the construction zone right now, on this $4.6 million project that the town is underwriting, and borrowing the money. And then our private partner, Wide Open, will also be investing in the project also. So the message tonight is that we're at work. We've spent several months in what we call make-ready processes. We have our own utility company. We, of course, have things like the cable companies, telephone companies that use our utility poles, and we've had to do a lot of make-ready. In other words, move some wiring around so we can bring in the fiber optic network and install that. So we've been doing that, and to be quite frank, one of the issues that has delayed us has been getting the material. The fiber optic cabling is in such demand, it has been back ordered. And our contractor, who is JBL Construction, has been waiting for the fiber and the equipment. And it is gonna arrive here at the end of the month. And they will start day after tomorrow, putting in what we call the MST units. Those are the multi-service terminals on our utility poles. There will be about 600 of these, and they will start this week installing those. And by the end of this month, the cable, the fiber optic cable will be there, and we will be able to start moving ahead. Here we go. You've got a photograph right there. That is some of the make-ready that we've been doing over the last several weeks, and we're bringing that to a conclusion, and we will start the next phase of actually installing the fiber optic cable next. And if I can just get this cursor to move forward. Here we go. Here's the material that we're dealing with, and it's been ordered. And just to give you an idea of the enormity of this project, we're ordering 67,657 feet of what we call 864 count ADS all dielectric self-supporting fiber. That translates into 12 miles just of that fiber. Then we're bringing in another 71,040 feet, and that count of fiber will be 432. And then it keeps going on, another 53,970, 288 count. And then we have the smaller fibers, 71,486 feet of smaller count fiber and hardware. And then the MST units, those are those service terminals that distribute the fiber. That's 698 of those that will be installed. So this is a network, and we will be having Wide Open construct a hub at our old restrooms that we abandoned several years ago, right next to Town Hall. And that will be the heart of the network. And I like to describe the network very much like the human body. You have the heart, the hub, and then all of what I've just read off and shown you is really the kind of, you might say, the arteries and the veins and the vessels that will transmit this whole fiber network to every piece of property and every business in Highlands. We've been delayed slightly because of the back order, but we plan on having this network lit up around April of next year. Now, my point is this. We'll be lighting it up, and we'll be serving the people of Highlands who are Macon Countyans. But that's not where Wide Open wants to stop. In their business model, the whole idea has been to move out beyond the city limits of Highlands. And in fact, any of our 3,300 utility customers, some of which, about 150, I believe, live outside of Highlands, they'll be hooked up as a part of this initial effort. But, I understand what Little T and the folks at Staley are talking about. This is a critical technology that needs to be throughout all of our communities. It's so valuable. We're really excited about what we're doing, but we're open, especially through Wide Open, to partner with other communities and making sure that this service goes forward. So, let me see if I get this last slide up. Here we go. The way this is going to work, we will start working from the outside of the town, inside to the hub. So the smaller fiber will be the first thing we will start installing, and then we will come in and connect that all to the hub. So that's basically where we are with our initiative. We've been working on it now for 5 years. I wanted to just make a few other comments. One is that we believe that this, as the folks who spoke earlier tonight, this is a critical technology that will continue to add value to the community and individual properties. For example, I'm a potter. I had a client from Savannah at my studio just recently. He was very generous, and I was feeling very good because he was buying a lot of my work. And I asked the person, I said, well, have you ever thought about buying a house in Highlands, North Carolina? And he said, yes. I had a contract on a house 2 years ago. And in the due diligence period, I started looking at your internet services. And where I live in Savannah, I'm an attorney and a businessman. I must have absolute connectivity to the internet with strong broadband. And when I looked at what was available, I did not purchase the house. So I echo what the folks at Staley Mountain is saying. This will protect us in the future by having this technology for economic development, for education, and for our critical medical needs that we have. So that's been the motivation for the town board moving forward with this whole project of creating a fiber optic network. And we've borrowed the money, and we've asked, of course, the county partner. I know that the county is not in the utility business. You do not run water or electricity, and I understand that. But to me, you can help facilitate and partner with other groups that feel that they need to address this in their more local communities in the county. So with that, if anybody would like to ask me any questions, I'm ready to respond.
Mayor, you mentioned how many utility customers you have?
We have 3,300. That's both residential and business.
You have a provider yet, Mr. Mayor?
We have Wide Open Networks, and Wide Open Networks will bring in providers. We know, and I don't want to announce it tonight, but we know that some of the local people will go on the network rather than trying to, run lines themselves, because it will be available. They'll be able to lease the dark fiber and work through Wide Open. We're not going to really be in the providing business or the content business. One of our long-term goals is, because we do have a water and electrical system, we want to become a smart grid and be able to better manage some of those utilities by having a fiber optic network. For example, we will have a situation where people can be hooked up and can continually monitor their water bill, their water uses, their electrical uses. We'll be able to do things like at night, dim the street lights down when they're not in high demand, and then bring them back up at other times. So those are the kind of things that we think as a municipality will be a great long-term payoff for us. So we see it as an investment. Now, I'm sure you share that same concern. This is a real opportunity for me for Macon County to step forward in Western Carolina and say, we will address this technology which will pay dividends in the near future, not the long future, I mean the real, immediate future, within the next 5 or 10 years. So, that's where we are on that.
That's, I've thought about this a lot, Mr. Mayor, I haven't thought about, I keep thinking about an outside provider coming in from Atlanta or Charlotte or whatever to provide the service, but I haven't considered our local operators are based in Highlands,
Right.
providing that across your, that are already doing it. So,
And, you know, for example, if you have a fiber network, I know people worry about landlines. You could run a landline on fiber, and it's, you know, just as reliable, and probably is just as clear as if you're depending on a copper, outdated copper system. Wanted to address one thing. Some people ask, well, what will be the demand on this? And we've done kind of a market analysis, and we kind of estimate that you have what's called the pass and take rate. And initially, we think that there'll be about a 30% to maybe a 40% take rate of customers who will want to sign up on this network. One of the things that it really does for the customer is there's none of this throttling down or up and down. If you want 50 megabytes, it's up or down, and that's really critical to business, telecommunications, and those kind of initiatives. So, and like I say, I know Wide Open in the town, we want to partner, we're wanting to partner, and we expect, and the business model is that Wide Open wants to move this out beyond our local town limits, and that's why I was showing you tonight all the slides of the fiber and everything. I was talking to Matt Schuler, our technical person today, and he was saying, we've got well beyond what we need for serving Highlands. We've got the capacity working with Wide Open to extend this fiber network out beyond the town limits.
So you're saying there's a possibility you might be able to work with Staley and those folks?
I would say this, Wide Open, I'm sure would be interested in doing that. You know, we're a municipality and we're kind of limited with this, and I want to put in a plug for Representative Corbin, who has been pushing the NC Fiber, Bill 431, trying to promote broadband through these 70 underserved counties. And, I've been keeping track of that.
It's coincidental we can't get out of a committee?
No, because there is resistance from large telecommunications. That's right, and Representative Corbin, credit, he turns around and says, well, fine, come out here and build this for us.
Yes.
We're open for it, and they go silent. So I think it's gonna take, community initiatives to make this a reality, and we want to be a part of that, not just in Highlands, but, wherever we can help, and we want to encourage our private providers to do that. So,
Thanks, Mayor. Charlie, any further questions?
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
you've got 3,300 power customers.
Right.
How many car customers you have on fiber?
On we don't have fiber, our little broadband altitude is some fiber, but most of it's wireless, and we have right now, I checked it today, 300 customers, and once we light this up, that whole altitude becomes a part of Wide Open, and that's the initial base for it.
How long ago was the broadband?
We have been in about 2 years. And to be quite frank, we have been working with House Bill 129, which puts a lot of restrictions on communities and municipalities being involved in this type of initiative. And we have been working with our attorneys and consultants now. We went to the FCC when it was challenged, that House Bill 129 was challenged, and they ruled in favor of saying we control the internet, and we saw that as an opportunity to start trying to meet that need. And now that we've been able to create this partnership with Wide Open, they will basically absorb this small department we have in
For those 300 customers.
On fiber, I could not really tell you. We have some fiber close to the downtown area, but really, most of the people are on the Wi-Fi or the wireless. And we also have customers that are outside the town limits. If we can get the signal to them, we let them hook up. Yes, and in my neighborhood, I had everybody in my neighborhood on it except me because I'm real low. And on the altitude, I couldn't get it, and eventually, fiber was actually brought to the neighborhood. But right now, our fiber is just primarily in the business area and the neighborhood that's close to us.
There, you mentioned money.
Yes, sir.
Was you making a specific request to this board, or you just put your hand out, or where we at?
I had made a bold request of maybe $1 million over a number of years, if you remember at my last presentation. But, you know, any support that you can provide will be greatly appreciated. To be quite frank, with the loan that we've taken out in the construction and the startup of this whole system, you know, our biggest challenge in the coming 2 years will be servicing that loan while we get the customer base and the revenue from wide open coming in to offset that. With the long-term goal in 15 years, and that's the length of the loan, that we will have been able to pay back the loan from the revenues from the operation of the network. But we realize, like any business, you have to kind of load up at the front end to realize the money coming in.
But you do think your base budget of 4.6 is gonna hold? That's a.
Yes, Mr. Higdon of JB&L, you know, we have a contract, and that is the cost of the construction, so that hasn't changed. So, the unknown factor is how much it'll cost, wide open to put in about 18% of the network, which is underground, because we have underground utilities. When we first started the process, we thought it was gonna cost several $1 million, but the technology, especially the shallow trenching on roadways, has come in to where we don't think it will be, you know, as costly to do that portion.
Any further?
I'm gonna try to hit escape. Okay, thank y'all so much. And I appreciate your willingness to address this critical, you know, issue, not just for, you know, the municipality of Highlands, but this whole, you know, county. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 9B, broadband for Scaly Mountain area. Presentation, Little T broadband services. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. I have 6 copies of a handout here. Would, hey, commissioners, county manager, hard act to follow. But my name's Anthony Deakins, and good evening. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Little T Broadband Services, which is a 501c3 formed to bring broadband access to Macon County, South Macon County, which includes the Otto and Scaly mountain communities. Just for clarity's purpose, broadband internet is defined by the FCC as a minimum of 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second of upload. My purpose here tonight is to share with you the progress that we have made to date in achieving our goal to seek and to seek the county's assistance in continuing that progress. I've provided you with a brief package of documents including the key points of this discussion, as well as some GIS-based maps, which shows you all those little dots are actually connectable broadband customers. And we can dig into that a little bit later, but I've also provided you with a projected timeline and when we expect to light up the pilot and a breakdown of our proposed use of the $178,000 that we're requesting from the county to support our continuing. 2019 actually marks the 4th year that we've been in pursuit of this. We formed the corporation, the 501, last year. We were recently joined by the Scaly community and working toward the objective of bringing broadband on a large scale. We're, as you've heard already, broadband access is no longer a discretionary service for those looking to enhance their entertainment venue. It is very critical to the economic and social vitality of rural counties or communities such as ours, and just as it has enhanced the economic and social vitality of larger urban areas. It's essential to our ability to attract new businesses, as you heard earlier, and to allow existing businesses to compete and thrive. In the Otto area, you heard some about the Scaly businesses. In the Otto area, I have had conversations with most of the 31 businesses that are obvious and visible, not counting all the businesses that might be tucked away in the back roads of Otto. But we have a large automotive repair shop there that came up from Florida, assuming that they would have basically the same environment that they had in Jacksonville, to find out that they didn't, and they gave up about 1/3 of their business because they can no longer download software to automobile computers. If there's any interruption in that download, it can damage the computer. He's bought a few for customers, and he has since sold his equipment for doing that, and just sent that business down to Clayton for the most part. Additional to bringing in new businesses and supporting our existing business, we know that real estate values are affected by having or not having access to the internet, and as importantly, how much bandwidth or broadband you have access to. Broadband is essential to help modernize public education. It's also essential in the support of public health and to provide for the safety and welfare of those of us who live in the rural communities. There's literally thousands of expert case studies that have waxed on about the impact on communities with high levels of broadband access versus communities without this access. And it shows a harsh differentiation about vitality of rural communities versus those in the larger urban areas in terms of jobs, health, education, opportunities, and more. We've completed a significant amount of research and GIS-supported demographic, topographic research, and we've had the support of our local EMC, which is Haywood EMC, which has a small pocket of footprint inside of South Macon County that runs Otto up through into Scaly. And that'll become more relevant as I go on here. We've settled on a high-level architecture that's going to be implemented, and this is a bit of an announcement, by a coalition of Haywood EMC, Balsam West, and Little T broadband service. It's largely a fiber to home with some expected application of fixed wireless in locations where fiber is not economically or otherwise practical. Network is going to provide a minimum bandwidth to meet the FCC requirements of 25 and 3 up, but we have the capacity, or will have the capacity, to provide quite a bit more. In fact, one of the things that we are looking to do is the very first places we're going to light up are the 2 community centers, the Scaly Community Center and the Otto Community Center. And we're doing that, we hope to be able to do that with a minimum of 50 megabits of download service, but to provide a platform for those communities to pursue grants and programs for after school, for telemedic supported health programs, and things like we've had suggestions of a new business incubator as well for local startups. The network's going to run through initially the Tessantee and Middle Creek valleys of the Otto community down through I guess it's the east side of 441 down to the state line. It will also run back up through the Haywood lines over into Scaly Mountain, and that will form essentially the backbone for our network. We have phases 2 through 4, which will be the other components of Otto community north and to the west of the highway. That will cause us to engage more with Duke Power, and the architecture will probably be somewhat different than what we have with Haywood. I provided you with a map, and you can see all the little dots there. This is the location of all the meters of that we feel like are primary meters that Haywood has provided us with. And in addition, you can see some little red lines. That's the path of the main power, the main trunk for the fiber. And you can see the location of the two community centers. We will provide access, or we will gain access to the wide world of the internet. They call it points of presence, or POPs, both to the north, to the south, and to the east of us. And so we will have multiple gateways out into the world. Like I said, the dots you see on these maps display in what we hope will in fact become 1,000 points of flight. Actually, there's 1,750 of them that we are targeting to complete in this initial phase. Strategy, like I said, is to deploy largely aerial to fiber, so we'll be hanging all of our fiber, primary fiber, on the power lines that both the transmission and the distribution lines that Haywood provides. The utilizing fiber the cost has come down. Understand there's a high demand rate for it, but when we started this conversation 4 years ago, it was a lot higher than what it is today, and so it makes fiber very very practical for this purpose. The hybrid architecture involving the wireless, we believe, is the most cost efficient and sustainable model for rural areas that are mountainous and endowed with our lovely heavy foliage, which can be sometimes a problem. As importantly, we believe that we have a repeatable model, and that this model can be used in many other communities and even other counties throughout western North Carolina. It's Little T Broadband Services has been and continues to be happy to share whatever information, experience, knowledge that we have acquired and will acquire in our planning, design, and deployments. Following like I said, the Otto and Scaly pilots, we will continue on through the rest of Otto. We talked about the hotspots in the community centers. This has become, particularly in Otto, very popular notion because they have been trying to come up with programs to better utilize our community center space. We have a very large facility, and frankly, we feel like it's underutilized. And so in trying to come up with programs to better utilize that facility, broadband keeps coming into the conversation. It has, for some time. And so that platform will allow early start for these communities to leverage the programs that I was talking about. And The other aspect is in healthcare is, and I have a personal encounter with this, not myself, but a neighbor of mine. A lot of the medical devices that are coming out these days require a connection to some facility somewhere else, vis-a-vis the internet. A pacemaker with a defibrillator component on it, for example, and that thing fires off, it wants to send a message and send data to a physician somewhere to monitor what's going on. This is current state-of-the-art technology for healthcare, and the people that live in these areas simply can't use it because they don't have that reliable access or access at all. We've received substantial support from both of our communities. We've completed a considerable amount of high-level design and planning work made possible through volunteers, a number of them. Some of them we've heard from tonight. Many with subject matter expertise and skills in broadband technologies, as well as in business formation and management. This effort to date has been funded through individual donations and an immense amount of personal pro bono time and personal expenses. We are at the point now where we're ready to begin the hard and expensive work of connecting home and businesses to the internet. At this time, we have sufficient data and cost information to begin our pursuit of grants long targeted for this purpose. And to that end, we intend to contract with professional grant writers with specific experience in this area. And further, we need to contract and complete low-level engineering designs for both the autopilot and the Scaly community deployment, along with the formal legal agreements that must accompany all of this, as well as binding more closely the coalition members that we have established here. Little T Broadband Service needs funding support to accomplish these initial tasks, and we estimate this funding support requirement to be right at $178,000, which we are tonight formally requesting the county to provide. This money will place us in a position where we can acquire additional funding, i.e. grants. We're also looking at a couple of capital loans from the USDA, one in payable when the work, so that we have money that is available when the work is ready to do, and to the little extent as possible, having work waiting for money to show up. The timeline that I provided you assumes no interruptions, and as you can see, it fills out the better part of 2 years. We expect that we can probably improve on that timeline by virtue of there's a lot of things we can be doing in parallel that aren't indicated there yet. But we also anticipate that there are things we know, things we know we don't know, and we're going to encounter some things we didn't know we didn't know. And so we've cut out some space and resource for dealing with that. In closing, just if you would, please keep in mind that the grant being requested tonight is not to supplement a for-profit business venture. It is Little T Broadband Service is a nonprofit organization, and we intend to be around for quite some time. And it is run currently by volunteer local citizens. It will always have a board of directors consisting of representatives from the communities that we serve, whether that's 2 or more. It is a member-owned organization as well. So the aim of the service is to help to promote economic development, improve health and education services, and to augment and improve public safety through the development of this network. Your financial support obviously would be appreciated, but it is also sorely needed as well for us to expeditiously move down that timeline that I have provided with you. So again, our request is for that initial grant of $178,000 to kick us off and to help light up these 2 communities. And I think this is where I get to stop and answer your questions.
Mr. Chairman, just let me say we had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Deakins and Mr. Lee, the chairman and myself, A lot of this is over my pay grade. But I think that the only way we're ever gonna have broadband in our area, we get penalized so much for talking about the park, the work we did, just a fact. I think the only way that we're ever really gonna have is folks like you and this community, and Scaly community, is gonna step up and do it. I really think that's the only case. We've kept this around now for 5 or 6 years. And we've had committees, we've had this. But when you see the town of Highlands and the Octo community, Scaly community really makes an effort to do something. We've not done so far. So I admire it very much, and I'm supportive of a system to help fund both entities you can't get into with other people conversation. But I just wanted to thank you for all the work that y'all put in. I know it don't pay too well.
I've been better.
But I think going forward, and I think this can be a template for other communities.
I believe it to be, and that was one of the considerations when we first started this thing out, was it's not to create a one-off situation. And we followed the progress of Highlands for a long time. We have had many conversations with Wide Open Networks. They were actually one of the bidders on our RFP. Balsam won the RFP, however. And you know, one of the things that we've looked at is the economic impact and models that Chattanooga, Wilson, North Carolina, and other places that have been able to bring this in there. And you know, I've seen a lot in my career, but the differences really are mind-boggling in terms of what can happen. It's kind of strange to look at a technology and sit there and say that it can make these kinds of impacts on the lives of communities, but it's true, it can. And if you don't have it, then you're sort of stuck in time because you can't move forward, while the rest of the world is in fact moving forward, and it's punishing the consequences.
What is the status of the broadband community?
I think essentially, you know, the Southwestern Commission, like us, picked up on this broadband need and have been searching for ways to address it. Like Ronnie said, we've been working on this for 5 years now, but I think a lot of where the confusion is coming in is what can and cannot counties do with money. How can counties support the broadband effort? That's something that, funding-wise, Chester, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the state legislature has just simply not made clear at this point.
Well, we did some research on this when we were discussing this pretty regularly, probably been a year, I guess. And at that point in time, there was not a lot of guidance to counties about what they could or couldn't do. Legislation specifically authorized municipalities to get involved. That legislation was not extended to counties. So, you know, we may be at a place where we've got to go back and do some additional research and see what further opportunities, if any, are available to counties.
I think that's what's so frustrating.
Well, there are 3 or 4 counties in North Carolina
There's more than that.
that have cracked the nut on this thing and have funded broadband, community-based broadband, typically through a 501 kind of structure. I don't have all the details at present, but we're still looking at how some of that may be applicable here.
I actually heard a presentation by one county down east. I don't know exactly how they went about it, but the presenter allowed that they were pushing the envelope, if you will. And it's not completely clear how it was going to come out.
Let me say something to Paul's question there. We started out as looking at this in a local concept. Sept provided a lot of information. But then we saw right quick, there's a regional concept out there, which encourages things don't even flow anymore. You're not communicating with each other. And, so, we've had this conversation a few years ago. Lady that came in here, you had 50 people in our 3J community.
Yes, I remember that.
That, wanted to do the concept of a small, we've been through the wireless things. Looked at small areas, stuff like that. But you can't make it fly or something. Then when you bring in the provider, we're all right in this room here. If there's not a budget, you forget it. Last mile, mid-mile, they don't talk to you.
No.
And, you've been a big help to a lot of people out here with your expertise and knowledge when we first started. We were just on the ground trying to figure out what to do.
I think the sentiment that came out of the commission that you were talking about was, I remember reading it and it's stock, but I don't have the exact quote, but it was something to the effect that we've done all we can do and it's gonna be a community-driven solution.
Right.
And I picked that up real fast and saying, okay, well, that's the tune we're gonna march to.
And that goes, as Commissioner Shields was saying before, and Paul, to get back to your question, before the broadband committee, I mean, we incorporated our GIS folks, our mapping folks, we sent surveys out in the school system, out to county residents on email to collect this information to report that there is a problem, and we do have a problem. And I read somewhere recently, where I think with respect to report, with the companies being able to report a census block, if one person in a census block is covered in an entire census block, if one person has 25 megabytes down, then that whole block is counted as 25 down being available. But things like that, I read recently where things like that are now changing it. But like Ronnie said, the efforts of Representative Corbin are second to none, and he's down there trying to push something through to open up ways for us to do things like this. But as Ronnie said, that lobby, is very strong, and so a lot of it just comes down to, we got the information gathered with the broadband committee. It led to an appropriation in the budget of $400,000 that is sitting there from our economic development reserve fund, so that indeed when we do get any kind of guidance or establish a clear path of something that we can do within the limits of the law, that we're sitting there ready to go in the budget with funds to go towards something like that. But navigating through that is something, as Chester was saying, that not many people are clear on.
And I sit as vice president of the Southwest Commission, so we've had this discussion.
Right.
For 5 years. And he keeps circling back around, and this is something that, and what Commissioner Shields says is correct, it is local, but with what's going on, I think that the only way we're ever going to achieve anything is to buy local.
Seems to be.
It don't seem to be, it is.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know what's legal or what's not, but, we got $400,000 sitting into the account. I would certainly support over a 2-year period, giving the town of Highlands $250,000 a year for 2 years, doing 50% of your request over 2 years, and every 6 months or every year, we can see how we're doing. But you can't see how you're doing if you're broke. Highlands can't see, he would help Highlands more too if they had money. If you had this commission board on behalf of the Macon County citizens say, well, we support you. That gives you something to hang your hat on when you go ask for money.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm for one, legal and wild. If we wait on the legislature to help us with this, we'll be back with ring telephone.
Well, the adage, I'm an old guy, so the adage is, if you want something done fairly quickly, give it to the old guy. You got a lot of time to screw around with it, and so, I'm in that boat. So yes, if I have to wait on the state, yeah.
Carl works with it every day. He's the most knowledgeable one on this board about this. And me and Carl's had a conversation. He can relate that to you. I really think that people with the initiative, like y'all are too, like the County of Highlands is too, is the only way that people that make homes, and some of them will never get. There's areas that we know that.
There's always, yeah, and there's people who really aren't, you know, interested in getting it,
But
but.
that don't mean you penalize everybody else.
Yeah, and you can't penalize the growth that you're not going to get if you can't provide this kind of environment, because I went to a meeting that Tommy Jenkins had up in the Highlands, and it was why tourism was such a benefit to Macon County, because all these young people come in here and they see this lovely place, they want to live here, and this is the age of work where you live, and so they can just come up here and move, and they can start working from their homes. And I'm standing in the back of the audience going, no, they can't, because they can't get a connection to the outside world.
I started work for a gentleman today, Dan Paul's neck of the wood. He has spent $100,000 out of his own pocket to get internet service to his house. $100,000, and he still is not the best in the world. So, how many people? I mean, you'd have to be in the landscape business to afford that.
He's got the micro trenching tools and rock.
Really, I mean, who can afford to do that? How many people can afford
No,
to do that?
and frankly, if you look at Otto particularly as a tier 1 community, all right? And, you know, they have to have a Kickstarter, some help in getting, you know, this going so that they can rise above that. And when the businesses can't survive, and here you go. We sit at the gateway to western North Carolina. 441 comes through Otto. Otto's the first place you see when you come up the highway. And what do you see? You see a business dead zone. We've got buildings that have fallen down. We've got buildings, you know, shops that have boarded up. Got plenty of junkyards. But, you know, not to cast aspersions on my community. I love the place, but 441 is when you come in to North Carolina, you know, you kind of move quickly up that piece of the road for a couple of reasons. Not the least of which, you've got big holes in cellular service, so you can't make a phone call. The EMS has holes in their communication service up and down 441. I know one of my neighbors was in a car accident on 441 just inside the Otto limits, and they couldn't communicate with dispatch and couldn't get the helicopter. They put her in an ambulance, sent her to Gainesville because there's no trauma care here, and she got down to Gainesville, and 45 minutes later she was dead. So I mean, these are real stories, and they happen more than once. And when you, again, when you have this gateway, I mean, Franklin, Macon County is the gateway to Western Carolina. And what have you got there? I thank you very much for your time.
How many, just to reiterate, you mentioned it, how many subscribers are you eventually hoping to touch?
1,750. There's actually, well, in the entirety of Otto, it would probably be closer to 2,000.
Have you done any estimates yet on what you're figuring your total build-out cost will be?
It keeps getting smaller. I mean, it's not so smaller. It keeps getting more refined. But yeah, we know that it's going to be roughly $5 million to do the Otto Middle Creek area, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to do the Scaly area and finish that out. Now that's, you know, soup to nuts.
Repeat that again, sorry.
It's about $5 million to do the Otto and Middle Creek area, and then
So about 12.
about 7, yeah, about 12 total to get it all done.
You're shooting again, I'm just re-emphasizing, just trying to clear things up. But
Right.
Ronnie said not my pay grade on landscape.
We all started somewhere.
So you're hoping that the money that you're basically gonna be taking from our taxpayers, from our county residents, is gonna be going towards
bringing more money.
process of trying to help clarify this, so
Yeah.
hopefully you can get more grant money to hopefully fund this build out.
True.
Okay. So,
Yeah, no, we've got the low-level designs. Low-level design is basically if somebody gets on the road and looks at each and every home site and business site and establishes what the strategy is going to be to connect them. We have the high-level designs, and we can look at it from a digital basis And we got a lot of help from the county in terms of data that we received from them. Got a lot of help from Haywood, we've got a lot of help from the state. We're constantly engaged with NC IT on this subject. And so, there's three of us that have formed the core group, but there's probably 25 that make up the full complement that push Little Key forward.
So I'm sure there's gonna be some more questions. I'm gonna go ahead and Commissioner Bill kind of stated his position on state line as well. I don't have an issue at all with supporting this. I don't have an issue at all with supporting the town of Highlands or some areas. But what I think it would be important for this board to do is to set some type of a protocol on how we can potentially disperse public funds with the board. Do we do it on potential amount of subscribers? Do we do it on, I think the one's going this way today, I think I'm gonna get 1 million, 25,000. How do we do that? Because I got a feeling if you're successful, and gosh, I hope we are successful, you are. If you're successful and you're able to clone this where we can take it up in Halo, where we can take it up in North Franklin, wherever we might take it to, how are we gonna potentially disperse our stuff to? I don't wanna set up something that the county, that we can't sustain financially, or emotionally, or, 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road. How are we gonna keep up with this? Do we keep putting 400,000 a year as we did this year? And we'll fund and keep doing it? I don't know what that answer is. It's something that's going to discuss.
There are some thoughts on it.
Okay. Anyone else?
If I understood you correctly, you had identified maybe 4 counties that were working on
3 or
similar
4,
initiatives.
yeah.
Do you by chance know the names of those?
Andrews County comes to mind. I don't have the other names with me, but I will get them for you.
That would be real helpful because oftentimes county attorneys can talk to county attorneys and kind of see how they're approaching.
Yeah, figure out those magic is.
Pearson County, I can tell you most of them.
Here we go.
Pearson,
Person,
Hyde,
I know the attorney in Person County, he's the one that gave.
they done got it implemented.
He's the one that, well, what they did is they built their own fiber optic for their county. And then they overbuilt it
And
to
they're
where
selling
they
it.
had surplus.
So that's, Hyde County is another, Sampson County is another.
Their county attorney will also say, or did at times say, they were pushing the envelope.
But nobody pushed back.
Not yet.
I will tell.
It's kind of hard to take it back once you got it built.
It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
This thing's going to sustain itself off of user fees.
Yes.
What were the other counties, Ron?
Hyde and Sampson is ones I know of.
Hyde and Person.
Person and Sampson.
And without getting into it all too much, what would a average cost by household be connect to this?
Okay, good question. Understand that our minimum is 25.3, all right? Minimum bandwidth is 25 megabits a second, download 3 up. So that you won't be able to buy less than that. That is higher than just about anything Frontier I'm aware of provides, anybody. That we hope to price commensurate to the standard rates that you find in Asheville and Atlanta. So that we're not punished for which means there's gonna be some continuing subsidization at certain levels. So it's gonna roughly be somewhere between $40, $45 a month, maybe $50 a month, to have that. The good news is, at that bandwidth, not only do you have ample internet to do the kinds of things we've talked about, but you also have, as Pat said, you have ample internet to run phone service across. And there's several ways you can do that, both for a business and for a home. Above 25, it gets pricier. So, the next increment is probably 50 megabits, a second. And that would be, somewhere around $75 a month. And then you keep going up to there. And eventually, we're gonna have businesses that are going to want gigabit service. Now understand there's gigabit service in Dillard, Georgia, all right? chafes me to say that, but there is gigabit service offered in Dillard, Georgia. And, you know, I'm here talking about 25 and 50 and 100 megabit service, but there's no reason we cannot provide gigabit when that comes. And I have no idea what the price of that would be at this point in time. But we really want to keep the residential rates on a par with if you lived in Asheville or if you lived in Atlanta. Those are the two benchmarks that we will use.
Then that's really commercial or.
And commercial will be higher because they want the higher rates of service, and so they can complete credit card trans. Yeah, it's funny, guys. When I first came here, I couldn't understand why people didn't take credit cards. And then one day I was at Cafe Rel's and I was talking to Richard Long, and I said, you know, why you take my check but you won't take the credit card? That's counterintuitive to me. And he says, you ever tried to process a credit card? And he had pretty good service. And, you know, it's just, you know, a delay, they can't process, got a mad customer, you know. So it's not worth the hassle, not worth the employee time, not worth the irritation of the customer. We're gonna do it. So. Thanks a lot.
Any further questions?
No, thank you.
Sir.
And also, I'm going to pass this on to be placed into the record. I have a letter from Lawrence Street, president of King Mountain Club, Inc., basically requesting that we support the people on it. So I'll pass this on.
So where we gonna leave it?
Any suggestions? I guess it's up for discussion.
Well, legally, that's another question, but we've got $400,000 in the account. We've got two entities that's trying to do the right thing. And I'd throw it out for discussion if we authorize $250,000 to the town of Highland, over $250,000, 2 years, making a total of $500,000. And to Little T for, they're asking for 178, is authorized 89,000 to them. And then we'll have a review 6 months from now, a year from now. Is that money gone to benefit? Would another $89,000 really help you at that time?
6 months would be fine.
Yeah. So, I'm just ready, I guess, I don't know, because maybe my patience is thin, but after 5 years and nothing happens, you've got two groups who are ready to step out. And I think we should give them an opportunity to succeed. That's just my opinion.
It's an investment.
Conceptually, I think it's a good idea. What you may be doing though is possibly getting the cart before the horse. You're gonna have to find legal authority to do what you're doing. If you don't have legal authority, and there are a number of problems that come Macon County, and in particular, you buy commissioners.
That's why we pay shift to the big bucks.
4 years ago, when I announced I was gonna run for county commissioner, I had just 2 or 3 things that I was gonna work on. Broadband was one of them. Because that was something I'm familiar with. I don't know anything about that, unfortunately. And I felt like I could utilize some of those resources that I have at my disposal to help Macon County move forward with broadband. And during that time, there was a broadband committee formed that did a lot of legwork to try to determine where the broadband needs were in Macon County. As it turned out, it was from the northern part to the southern part, and then from the west. Other than those areas, we got plenty of broadband. So then, and I followed this in
other counties and other states, that process started trying to develop a business model or and a deployment plan. And it comes down to dollars and cents. We really need federal money to do this, to get us down the road. It's gonna take federal dollars and a lot of federal dollars to do it. I think the state has recognized that they're gonna have to play some part in this. But if we wait for the federal government and the state to save us, then we'll be sitting up here on dial-up, like, get dial-up, waiting for that to happen. So I think what we've talked about tonight is a lot of good conversation in that it's gonna take some initiative locally for that to happen. The concern I have, a couple concerns I have with that, is there are far more of these initiatives that have failed than have succeeded. So from a county standpoint, I think we're gonna have to be very careful in how we structure it, where we're protecting the citizens of Macon County because we're spending their tax dollars. You know, pick on Town Highlands a little bit. Town Highlands can build that fiber network with or without the money that we provide them. They're far enough down the road with it, in my opinion, that it's just about impossible for them to turn around the road now. They've got to see it through or go broke doing it. And I don't think they're gonna go broke doing it. So Town Highlands is one situation that's unique in the way they're going about it. We have Little T and we have other community models that are out there that they want to deploy broadband that need to be supported. So how do we support those? I've had multiple conversations with everybody that I can talk to trying to get one simple question answered. Can the county fund Little T? Just a yes or no. And I have yet to get a yes. And I've talked from attorneys to the folks that actually implement it. So I think we're gonna have to have some help legislatively to stay out of trouble, because the way that it's been explained to me is unless it is tagged as economic development, then it can't be funded through a grant or whatever through the county. So I think we're gonna have to have some help there to get us in the clear, so we can start funding these things. And how we're gonna go about funding them, I think, the second thing we need to be very careful about is that we do it fairly and uniformly across the entire county. Because, there's just very few communities in our county that you could go and ride at the house and say, you have to broadband. It just doesn't exist. So I think it's gonna be imperative for the board through the county manager to establish how the county is going to deploy these dollars. What's gonna be the criteria in which we're gonna start funding? What is these projects, what phase of these projects we need to be in? And whatever that, like the chairman referenced earlier, is it by subscribers, is it by household, is it by fiber footage? What's gonna be the criteria, and apply a dollar value to that, so that when a Little T sits down and they start developing this, they know what the county funding model is gonna be, and they can put that into their business model. So, and what that will do is it will give those communities an idea of what's available at that county level. State and federal is easy right now, it's zero. And then this board can be rest assured that they're being fair to all the citizens to make the county without penalizing the Little T's. I apologize for that, but
We're the only ones here.
But we're not penalizing those folks that's taking the initiative to get started with it. So, I think I agree with Ronnie 100%. We talked and talked and talked about it. And y'all heard me say this many times before. You know, we hold Macon County near and dear to our heart for whatever reason we have. But for folks that's looking to move somewhere, they look at this whole Appalachian mountain range and we're competing with those. And I think that having broadband is gonna make a huge difference when it comes down to having a competitive edge, trying to lure those folks in there again. So I think we need to come up with a funding plan that's fair and equitable to everybody, and I don't think that should be a long process to do. And then we need to start funding those dollars per that plan, and that way we know that we're doing it fairly and equitably to all the citizens of Macon County.
I'd like to disagree with my good friend Carl on that, because I think we have a partner. I think that it would be a template for the other communities. Yes, we can set some kind of formula if you've got 10,000 people that could get. There's no guarantee on this thing. We found that out of who's gonna sign up, who's gonna do what. But I think with Little T and the town of Highlands, if we do support them now, that will give, we have a partnership with them. And when the next community comes along, the misstep that you took, you'll share with those folks. What worked with you will work for the other folks. And so I would take exception to Carl's scenario that we'd have to have a template first. I think you would help create that template. I think Highlands is going to help create that template. And I think that's something we can share with the entire county. And so for a very small investment, and overall, it's not a small investment, it is taxpayer dollars. But for what I suggested over a 2-year period, for that relatively small investment on what you could get back in, you go out and hire a consultant. You just hire one consultant for $89,000 for a year and see what happens. You ain't gonna find it. So now we've got a whole room full of consultants. We've got a whole town full of consultants. So I think it would be an ideal, I just think it's an ideal time, an ideal position to put it out there and let the county manager, county attorney see what we could do and let these folks come back to us with a recommendation of what works and what don't work. I just think it'd be a template for the whole other community. I really do. Before if this board tries to set standards that they can't meet, then all their work's in vain.
So maybe I wasn't clear. I'm not inclined that we're saying that the county would set a standard for building, construction, or how they're gonna implement it. I simply was referring to the funding piece of it. We would have a standard that we would use for funding.
And I think as this goes down the road, we'll have that with both entities. We'll know how much, if the mayor's budget is on track, how much does it cost to hook up to each house? What's the next step? And I just think that you're gonna have to start somewhere. And the more you kick the can down the road here, you're just starting over. That's just my opinion.
There is a some ratio on funding on it. It's Highlands right now, it's $4 million project, and we're committing $500,000 over the next 2 years. This is a $12 million project, I think. And we're committing, I mean, there seems to me there's gotta be some funding ratio. Are we willing to commit to the Little T based on funding ratio to Highlands? It's just, I think there's gotta be some guidance, some parameters. The next group that comes in, they have a $50 million thing. I mean, yeah, and I appreciate these, absolutely. It's obvious. I mean, the state, they sent a consultant up here to us. What was the guy? Man, he flew into town here and he swooped us all here that night. I thought that was better than whipped cream, but that baby, I mean, it goes nowhere. It's like a lot of other issues we deal with, mental health, all of these issues we deal with. It's just talk. And I'm absolutely in favor of funding and assisting, not funding, but assisting, but I think there's gotta be some parameters involved rather than just doling out taxpayer dollars.
I think they give us a parameter, Bob.
I just got it, Ronnie, I need to, I can't absorb as quick as you can, so.
Well, it don't take me long to absorb after 5 years.
Deal with it.
I was just gonna observe that if there's 4 counties that are already working this, there's a pretty good chance many of these issues have been addressed.
Absolutely.
And it may well be that we can get a lot of information from one of those counties.
We'll charge you with that tax.
County attorneys are real good to work with one another. I wouldn't think that this would be any different, because I think most people working on this project would like to see widespread.
It's 178,1,600 subscribers.
1,700 thereabouts.
So that's roughly $105 per subscriber. Yeah, but it's not, if you can take that and then apply it to Highlands, if you went on that basis, and if y'all setting the bar at 178,000, you could then take that bar and move it to Highlands. But the problem is you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples, because they're in deployment stage, y'all are still in
It's two different
investigation stage, so
environments.
it's tough to.
It's
so
concentrated
difficult
city
to do.
versus a wide open
That's
country.
right. Moves, motions, where we headed?
Well, I don't know where to go to, but I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that this board, under the direction, given the authority to the county manager and county attorney, if permissible, that, because I think it will create a template for this county, is my opinion, that we authorize $500,000 to Highlands, for their objectives with broadband in Highlands, $500,000, that's $250,000 a year, to be reviewed at any time that this board deems necessary. And the same motion for Little T, I would authorize $178,000 to be paid over a period of 2 years, and at 50% now, and 50% at a time when we deem necessary, not to exceed 2 years, and that we could have any updates at any time for this taxpayer dollar.
Presume that motion would imply that appropriate interlocal agreements and/or other agreements.
And that would be an interlocal agreement with Little T and their board, and Highlands, of course, and their board. So I put it in form of a motion, we'll just get off the dime and we'll see where it goes.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Fields, we're on the discussion stage. Discussion, Commissioner Freeman, anything?
Now, is this motion charging you and Derek the responsibility of bringing us some form of?
Bringing you some information for which you can
To make
start
sure that
working
we're
on the
legal.
details.
Right.
Yeah,
And if we're legally, it passes, if we get the vote.
assuming you get
So your
appropriate
motion is
agreements
just
in place.
is authorizing them to do the research?
And if the research proves viable, then the motion goes on to say, we'll disperse the money as presented.
But it has to be proven that it's a legal option.
That's right.
Pursuant to appropriate legal agreement.
Real legal review.
And the reason I say you're not gonna move it forward if you don't do that. If you don't get.
Oh, absolutely, I think they need to get on this quickly.
Let's look at it.
But it gives us something to put our teeth into, to see what's gonna happen. And these two groups are putting it out there. They've worked hard to do this for, when the chairman and I met with them, their heart's into it. And when their heart's into it, you can't deny that. When Mayor Pat Taylor started this thing, he said, I don't know if it'll work or not, we're gonna give it a best shot. It's gonna work. You
I
gotta
think
believe
local
something.
initiatives are gonna be the answer, at least in the short run.
I do.
Well, and I think we all agreed to that a few years ago. Once Congress sat back there in the back and talked about 50 houses R2J community, I think this is what, we don't know, at the next meeting next month, we don't know what's gonna come out of your other requests. The tire people are listening,
But not doing that.
but they're listening, and they'll be here. Cause that's the only way you can get it, is through the towers. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is crazy. We're having a conversation did 5 years ago, and we ran it out here to a point. Legion stepped in and says, you're going the wrong way. We can't get any money if you don't come in, if your county doesn't come in and join this region. And this kind of threw us a brakes on it. We went to these meetings out here, and this everybody's plan. And, it's interesting that this thing has gone in a cycle. And next month, there's another group here on a piece of pie. And go back, look, we're saying you're gonna have to design some kind of formulas.
I don't think there's another group in Shields that's done this day's work in the county. There's nobody even close to that.
I think you're right. I had the opportunity to meet him a few years ago. I think you're a go-getter. I think, when the tire people come in and go into the community where you got 50 houses that are ready, they're gonna energize. When you come down to, Oak Grove, down that way, this thing's gonna get interesting again. And we're looking at it from a local standpoint. We will be discouraged at a point in time not to do it locally. You've got to take this thing here, we're gonna get it regional, if you want federal money, you want state money. Or you'll just have to rely on local money. It just works out, am I right or wrong?
You're right, I worked with the Cartuga J people on that project, and, you know, I think we need local money to get federal money to, you know, the first thing they look at is how committed is the community. Well, the community, people are committed, you know, but the community government is where they tend to look
I
at.
believe it's called leadership.
Something like that. So, I mean, yeah, the money we're asking for isn't gonna build this out, not even closely, obviously, but it will help us get the money necessary to build it out. And the money is there, it is available, and, but it takes effort and expertise to go get that, just like it takes effort and expertise to architect the network that we were working on. Cartuga was a very interesting start model. I worked with them, I went to Asheville with them, and talked to the company that was gonna, you know, provide the towers and the service and so forth. And frankly, when we started this quest, we thought it was gonna be wireless for us as well, just like Cartuga. But as we matured our understanding of both our circumstances and the technology, we found out that fiber, if you can get a power line to somebody's house, I can get fiber to their house. It's just that simple. It's just that complicated. Because there's a lot of poles and lines involved to do that. So that's why you see the kind of footage that Pat was showing, 12 miles of fiber, 4 or 5.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutzman, comments?
I just, there's no one on this board that's more supportive of broadband development